I'd like to call to order the East Chicago Common Council public hearing and regular meeting for Monday, March 9th, 2020. Can everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
First District Councilwoman Monica Gonzalez. Here. Second District Councilman Lenny Francisci.
Present.
Third District Councilman Terrence Hill.
Here.
Fourth District Councilwoman Stacy Winfield.
Present.
Sixth District Councilwoman Gilda Orange. Councilman at Large Dwayne Rancifer.
Present.
Councilman at Large Emiliano Perez.
Present.
Councilman at Large Kenneth Monroe.
Present. Welcome back, brother.
Council President Robert Garcia.
Present. Next thing on the agenda is a public hearing on ordinance 20-0002, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland, an ordinance vacating a public alley pursuant to Indiana Code 36/7-3. Somebody here to speak about it?
Yes, Mr. Morris, Mr. President.
Good evening, Mr. Morrisroe.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. President. I was here about this last time when you set it for our public hearing. Again, this is the block bounded by Dickey Road, Watling, Grand, and then Michigan Avenue. As I had mentioned, the vacation of the alley is primarily that a purchaser of the block would like to be able to use the whole block. There is no longer the need for the alley that was there when we had stores on the front and service businesses on the back. The sole use of the alley that requires NIPSCO to remove a gas line that served the businesses that were there formerly. And with all of that in mind, we asked this alley be vacated, and we probably will ask for the vacation at some later time of the alley that goes towards the fire station from Grand to Dickey Road. Are there any questions or?
Mr. President, members of the council, because this is a public hearing, in addition to hearing the comments from Mr. Morris, it would be appropriate to ask if anyone in the audience is here to speak for or against the petition.
Yes, that was my next thing.
I can stay here if there are any questions.
Is there anybody in the audience for or against ordinance 20-0002, or a ordinance vacating a public alley pursuant to Indiana Code 36/7-3? Hearing none, public hearing is over. Is there a motion to pass the minutes?
So moved, Mr. President.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hill, seconded by Councilman Perez. Any questions? Roll call.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Francisci.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
Rancifer.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Any communications from the mayor?
Yes. William Allen, Director of Engineering Department.
Mr. President, we've got the minutes for last week. Approved the minutes for last week.
That's it.
Hello, members of the council. William Allen, City Engineer, and we also have Doug Cunningham, Construction Project Manager. We're here to give an update on Guthrie.
Guthrie Street. Okay.
I got one quick question before you start. Is this reference also ordinance 20-0004? About the financing of Lakeshore Manor Apartments?
No.
No? Okay,
Separate.
go ahead.
Okay, January 6th, we had material water main coming on the site. Our notice to proceed was in October, where we got submittals sent in for material to install that was approved. We also created the phasing plan for construction, and we also redid the traffic control because the previous contractor had opened up a lot of spots. So to secure those spots, we did the traffic control so we could have a safer environment out there. On January 16th, we did some exploratory excavation. We located our water main, verified the sizes, and pursuant to looking for proper elevations and location. We had our first project management progress meeting on site January 9th. January 27th to February 21st, we started installing water main from Michigan to Washington Street. We got that all tested, pressure tested, plastic chlorination process. February 12th, we had our final dumpster for the rail ties. We ran into some obstructions out there. We had about 2 blocks of rail ties that went from Michigan to about Dito, old rail ties, and those were removed and sent to a proper site because of the rail ties contain a carcinogen. February 3rd through March 6th, Michigan Avenue water main break. We did a repair on Michigan Avenue that was not related to our project. February 4th, NIPSCO came in to do the dewatering. NIPSCO was holding us up because when we go into sewer work, we're down about 14 to 16 feet, and we need dewatering. The lake itself is at the highest level it's been ever, which increases our water table. So we need to do the dewatering. We finally got them on board. Hossie started setting up the dewatering, and then we had we started the sanitary sewers we started the sanitary sewer work at Guthrie and Alder, and we're trying to evaluate. Alder Street is an older brick structure sewer. It goes all the way to Columbus Drive. It's in a lot of disrepair. We want to make sure that we tie into proper elevation so that when we are able to put that job in for repair, that everything's correct. So that's going to take about a couple of days, and once we get finished with that, we'll start the main installation of the sewer system throughout the project. We also have a contractor, M.E. Simpson. They're out there. A lot of our valves throughout the city have been paved over. We don't know where they are. So this company is in the process of locating those valves. I need those valves in the project because they isolate pipe so I can go in and tie into or remove without taking down several blocks for inconvenience residents, taking down a lot of blocks of unnecessary water stoppage, and it isolates the pipes that are closest to the job site. Instead of shutting down just what's on Guthrie Street, a lot of the valves that we have in place, I have to take down 2 or 3 blocks. So for a better relationship with the citizens, they're out there, they're exercising valves, we are putting in new isolation valves. Those valves have not been worked in years. Some of them don't even turn. So those that are not operable, we'll have to replace. Our proposed completion date is July 21st, 2021. We're at approximately 4% completion of the project. We did have some obstructions to rail ties. We had grout in some areas where on on Elm Street where we went to put in a fire hydrant that somebody had filled in an area with grout, which is like concrete without the material, the aggregate material in it, and that took a little time. So I think this project will flow and we'll pick up a little steam once we get sewers in, once we can get all the elevations checked and move forward. So that's where we're at.
Any questions from the council? Councilwoman
Yes,
Mr. Winfield?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, that's my concern to the fullest. You're saying July 2021. I still have a huge concern. I seen you all put the cement barricades up with the markings so people could see. Not only are the residents or different people still going down the wrong way, your construction company is driving down the wrong way. I have witnessed it several times, that they don't make anything any better, that they're coming down the wrong way. I didn't know if you all sent another letter out to the residents. I haven't heard about a letter that went out saying 2021 of July that this project is going to be finished, because now it's going on 2 years, it's going to be basically almost 3 years. When you get to the areas, if the residents are having problems with flooding in their basements, because every time they dig up this is not the first time that project has come through Guthrie, maybe 3 or 4 years it has happened. Some of those residents in that block is having water problems behind it. So what can you send them some type of information on, as the closer you get to that area, what should they expect? What will happen if they continue to get the water in their basements due to putting the pipes in and everything? Because that is a problem in that area.
You shouldn't have a problem due to our construction with water in your basement,
Okay, with the projects, and it's before you,
right?
it has happened.
Right now, the lake is at the highest level it's been,
Mhm.
which means the water table is up.
Okay.
People, for instance, I live in your district, Perry Park, been at my house 24 years. The last 5 years, my sump pump rarely, if at all, pumped. Let me finish. Because of the rise in the water table, my basement is pumping water consistently, okay? We're not doing anything to add water to any kind of subsurface areas. We're only removing water as we install the sewers. So we're tying into existing water lines into the homes, so there's no way that I can add water to your basement.
Okay, I'm not talking about in our district, I'm talking about in the 6th district on Guthrie Street. If you take a poll with the residents that live on the blocks of the homes, that has happened, and I'm asking because it has happened in the past with the construction companies that have dug up, that those residents would get water. It may be different with you, this company that you have, since you've been here, but that's the concern that I'm having, not in the 4th, but I'm talking about that 6th district on Guthrie Street itself.
The way we've been addressing it, Will and I, is if a resident calls and has a complaint about water, we go out.
We investigate.
We go out and we investigate. Most of the time, they're not real happy with our response. If it's not the city's fault, there's nothing I can do. If it's groundwater and you don't have, I see it happening more because, again, the water table is high. It's really high.
Well, I'm just talking about when you get to the area, because you're not there yet in that area. I'm just talking about when you get there, if there's a problem.
If there's a problem, we always go out and we do a thorough investigation, and we inform the homeowner what needs to be done. If it's my fault, I'll fix it. If it's not my fault, I can at least try to get you in the direction to try to get it resolved.
So if they'll call the mayor's office and
They
talk to
just
the
generally
business
call
guy?
to engineering.
Well, now, my understanding now, they're being told to call their council people, so that's the
Well, if
understanding.
you call me, you call me, you give me an address, we'll go investigate.
We got to call the chief of staff now, instead of calling you, we can't call you.
Well, everything goes through the chief of staff, but regardless, if we're notified, we will work with you.
Well, that was my main concern, because I've been since day one about that, even with the contractors driving the wrong way.
When have I
Doing
not?
everything
When
you
have I
possibly
not?
can.
When have I
I know,
not?
that's why I said, I know you doing everything that you possibly
Right.
can, but the contractors don't make a perfect example for the residents.
Well, one of the things that I'm trying to do as the construction manager for the city is I tell all the contractors, you can't buy it in Munster, you can't buy it in that type of work in Munster, you can't buy it in Griffith, you're not gonna buy it here. Okay? That's the way we roll.
Any more questions, Ms. Winfield? Ms. Gonzalez? Any other council members? I got a few questions. You mentioned quite a few projects there. The project that's going to end July in 21, which project is that? Is that Guthrie Street?
Yeah, got the
All right. Also, you said a lot of valves were covered when they redid the streets.
Right.
There was no one managing that project
That
as
was-
far as
that was
hold
before-
on.
That
As
was
far as the
before-
valves.
Right, that was before I got here. We've now put a plan in where when we do paved streets, we make sure that they don't cover the valves, and they properly do the streets. But that was prior to my tenure.
Right, and that's
Mr.
not- that's
Mr.
not
Allen?
Yeah, that's not the main, that's part of the
Part of
reason.
the reason.
Some of these valves are just old, outdated, haven't been exercised in X amount of years, and Water Department is exercising a maintenance program.
When is Guthrie going to open, Michigan and Guthrie?
We tried to open it today. Getting back to the valve exercise, we were out there exercising valves so that we could isolate and turn off the water in limited areas, and as they went out to exercise the valve, they broke.
I understand that was not your fault as far as the street department, engineering department, but I know the water department, that pressure, they raised that pressure, that's why that valve blew.
No, it's not.
But when do you anticipate Michigan being open? Because I'm seeing a ton of truck traffic coming down Parrish, residential areas. So trying to find out, can we divert them to Euclid, which is a lot wider?
That's a question for the police department. That is not, I can't tell where traffic goes in the city. What I can tell you is that we worked very diligently hard through bad weather to try to get that street open. Today, unfortunately, we went out to exercise the valve, the packings blew. These valves, some of these valves belong in the Smithsonian. That's how old they are. We've ordered the valves. The valves should be here by Thursday. If I can get the valves installed by Friday, I need at least I'm ordering a 9-mag mix, which should give me a 7,000 PSI within 3 days. I've got those huge steel trucks going on that traffic. If the weather remains warm, I'm looking at next Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, isn't the engineering department in charge of traffic studies?
No, it's not.
No.
We're in charge of traffic plan, but I can't
Right.
tell you on a construction site, but I can't tell traffic where to detour. I can't do that.
I don't get that.
Once you're in the traffic, once you're in the construction area, I can tell you where to go, but I don't do the detouring.
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is James Polentone and Frank Rivera.
Frank Rivera, Executive Director of the Department of Redevelopment. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the council.
Good evening.
James and I are here to inform you of a new 3-story residential mixed-use building that will be developed along Broadway between Alder and Pulaski Street. This development will have commercial space on the first floor and 28 residential units. The project is part of the Moving Forward 3.0 program by IACDA in conjunction with the city. This program is designed to alleviate blight by providing significant opportunities for gainful employment, creating new business enterprises in the city, providing the general public with safe, clean, and affordable housing, and providing new and viable real estate in the city. We are inviting Up Holdings, who is conjointly working with the city on this project, to provide a presentation to the Common Council on the next council meeting. In that meeting, a resolution will be presented to the council as well. And now I turn it over to my colleague, James Portalatin.
Good evening, Mr. President and new members of the council. As Frank advised, the building will be a new 3-story residential mixed-use building. The building department has worked in coordination with the general contractor, Corrigan Clark and Associates, and their subcontractors to establish their East Chicago Building Contractors License. Furthermore, I would like to inform you that the construction design release from the Department of Homeland Security has been approved by the state for this project.
And we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Councilman Hill?
Yes, with this new construction site, are you all going to be able to hire some individuals from the city of East Chicago to help you all with some of that, or do they have to go through a union and all that?
Those areas we're not familiar with, Upholdings will probably give you more detail when they come here to give you the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
What's the area again of this Lakeshore Manor?
The areas in, between Alder and Pulaski and Broadway.
In front of the new senior, the senior citizen building that is there right now.
Councilman Perez?
Who's funding the project?
That would be in conjunction with IACDA,
And the city.
the city.
Do you have a breakdown for us? How
No.
much is the city, how much is IHCA?
That will be probably presented at
That
the
probably most be presented in the next meeting.
next meeting.
Any other questions? Is this a separate project from the senior buildings they plan to build on Main Street in Guthrie?
Yes.
It is. You need to present yourself and say your name and your title.
Sorry, pardon me. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to the board. My name is Esperanza Ceja Ramirez, and I'm the compliance manager for the city. That's why I presented myself here, just in case if the question did arise. And they are part of the diversity inclusion program, so I'll be monitoring this project as well. A certain percentage of it, but yes, we will be looking for residential hire, and I am working with the union halls.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I hear none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other communications from the mayor? Clerk?
No. Communications from department head. Accounts payable warrant 030920CC.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. President.
Motion moved by Councilman Hill, seconded by Councilman Winfield. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Rancifer,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Accounts payable warrant 030920LA.
Is there a motion on the table?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hill, seconded by Councilman Rancifer. Any questions? Hearing no questions, roll call.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Rancifer,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Payroll warrant biweekly 022120.
Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion moved by Councilman Perez, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Any questions? Hearing no questions, roll call.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Rancifer,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Payroll warrant monthly 030220.
Motion on the floor.
So moved, Mr. President.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion moved by Councilman Hill, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Any questions? No questions, roll call.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Rancifer,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Any committee reports? Hearing none. Any board reports? Any ordinances on first reading?
Yes, ordinance 20-0003 sponsors council members Terrence Hill, Robert Garcia, Kenneth Monroe, and Stacy Winfield. An ordinance authorizing reimbursement to common council members for reasonable education and travel expense incurred for purposes of city-related business or to attend conferences, educational seminars, or meeting related to city business.
Mr. Dalton or Mr. Buscemi?
Would you like me to present the ordinance?
If you would like.
Mr. President and members of the council, currently, elected officials, including the mayor, the city judge, and the clerk, are permitted by existing ordinances in the city to participate in educational programs, and when they incur registration fees, travel expenses, hotel rooms, meals, typical reasonable expenses related to the educational program, city law currently allows them to be reimbursed by submitting a claim voucher for those incurred expenses. Also, other city employees that are non-elected officials have the same authority under the current ordinances if they attend by assignment of their department head a educational seminar and incur an expense such as a meal, a hotel room, travel expense, whatever the case might be, the city employee who incurs that expense, pre-approved by the department head, is also permitted to obtain reimbursement after the fact by submitting the receipts. The only individuals in city government at the present time that are not able to be reimbursed for education-related expenses are the 9 members of the Common Council. And that's because in Section 3 of Ordinance 18-0022, which is the city employee salary ordinance, there is a prohibition in Section 3 that states that the only item that can be reimbursed for Common Council members are the dues to attend and participate at the conference. So, all this ordinance does is it puts Common Council members on the same par with other elected officials and other city employees who receive approval from their department head to, after the fact, have their incurred expenses reimbursed.
Any questions? Hearing no questions, roll call.
There wasn't a motion.
Oh, is there a motion? Excuse me. Is there a motion?
So move, Mr. President.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hill, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Any questions? No questions? Roll call.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Rancifer,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Next ordinance.
Ordinance 20-0004, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland, an ordinance of the East Chicago Common Council concerning certain actions and proceedings with respect to the financing of certain Lakeshore Manor apartments.
Is there a motion on the floor?
So move, Mr. President.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion moved by Councilman Hill, seconded by Councilman Perez. Any questions? Question I got, it says actions and proceedings with respect to the financing of certain Lakeshore Manor apartments. Since we're hearing this on first reading, I'd like to know what is the financing.
Mr. President, members of the council, Ezra Burdick is here to present the details of the proposed development of this project, and also bond counsel, Mr. Humbleby, is here to discuss with the council the method of financing.
This is their opportunity to talk.
And if I may, Richard Morris, the attorney and acting director for the Economic Development Commission, which held a public hearing on Thursday, February 27th about this matter, and is very proud to bring Mr. Burdick and Mr. Umpleby before you this evening to answer your questions and to present the matter to you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrisroe.
It was Tails, so he sent me up here first.
Well, good luck.
Dave Umpleby from law firm of Taft, Stettinius, and Hollister. I'm bond counsel on the transaction. I practice in the area of tax credit and bond finance, so this is kind of what I do. By way of overview, and I always struggle between too much and too little detail on these things because depending on where you go, sometimes they do them all the time, sometimes they've never done one. So the way these transactions work, it's an affordable housing development. The sources of federal, not local, federal subsidy for these things comes in two forms. There's a federal tax credit that's available that is essentially placed with an investment bank and they put cash in. So that's part of the source of funds. Part of the source of money for these transactions is tax-exempt bonds, which are at a lower interest rate than a taxable bond or what you can get through bank financing. So this tax credit and bond product works together. You have to have one to get the other. So the way this specific transaction works is the city would issue, not be financially responsible for, but issue, because it's a governmental issued bond, the $22 million of bonds. Those proceeds would be used to build the project, and then once the project's placed in service, I think the date we have in mind is on or before August of 2022 in this specific case. The project would be refinanced into an FHA loan. The bonds would be repaid, and then the developer still gets to use the tax credits for the transaction. So the way these work, the bondholders are solely looking to the proceeds of the FHA loan and cash on hand and so forth to repay these bonds. The city is in no way financially responsible for them. You're just essentially issuing them as a pass-through to allow the project to get the benefit of the tax-exempt financing, and more importantly in this case, to get the tax credits that go with the project. So that's a brief overview, and I don't know how much, if you have questions or more detail on certain issues, I'm happy to dig into it as little or as much as you like.
Any questions from Councilman? From the council? Steve Dalton, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions for the bond counsel. I might have a couple for the developer if he's going to be stepping up next.
Yes.
Sure. And if you think of any later, I can come back. So, thank you.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Ezra Burdick. I'm president of DTM Real Estate. We're the co-developer on the project. I know this is my second time back in front of the council, and we have a few new members. So I'm willing and ready to share as much about the project as need be. If you want me to walk through pretty much the entire project, I could do that, or we can.
Can you do a quick overview, and then if they have any questions, they can ask any questions.
Yeah. So I think the main thing is this is replacement housing for the current Nicosia building. We all know what disrepair the current Nicosia building is in. It will be called Lakeshore Manor. It will be located on both sides of Main Street, just north of 136th Street. There will be 206 units of independent senior living, 93 units in one building, 113 in the larger L-shaped building. There will be 4 floors, no retail or commercial space in this building, but a lot of good common area and program space areas for the seniors. We're really excited about some of the materials that will be used on the building, both inside, exterior and interior. The exterior of the building will be all hardy plank, no vinyl siding, no materials that will not stand the test of time, if you will. All hardy plank, masonry on the first level, double hung vinyl windows. The insulation is mandated by ICTA, IHCDA, that you've heard, and so there's actually a consultant on this project that's required. So even at the end of construction, there'll be blow tests performed and whatnot, and this building will have to pass on a very high efficiency level, right? You'll see pictures here or illustration of the materials that will be used for the interior. For the most part, it will be all hard surface flooring, except for in the bedrooms, including the hallways. As I had mentioned, there's a lot of public and community space, workout rooms, television rooms, theater rooms, a common warming kitchen area, fireplaces in that that will be located in the public space as well. We think that one of the other measures or issues that we thought about for the seniors was security. So except for one laundry room in Building 1 that's on the west side of Main Street there, all of the living areas will be behind secured doors. So these buildings will have 2 elevators in each building. There'll be a laundry facility on each floor in both buildings. And so what I'm saying is you'll be able to go through a door from the public area with key access, and that's where you'll be able to actually engage in some of these more private and living areas like laundry rooms and such that the public won't be able to access. Let's see, what else would I share? I think that would be about it.
Attorney,
Unless there's questions.
Councilman Hill?
Yeah. Now, will all these rooms be single occupancy or double? Because you may have a couple of senior citizens that may want to room together, although they may need separate beds, because, sometimes when you're old, you don't like to sleep together, because one may snore more than the other. So are you going to have a room with two bedrooms or just one?
So there's actually 200 one-bedrooms, 6 two-bedrooms.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
From the council? Councilwoman Gonzalez?
I was just curious, for all the rooms, they're going to be wheelchair accessible, of course.
Yes.
And I know at the Hunter Building, go ahead.
Well, I might add, so we're mandated to have so many units that are accessible.
Okay.
But every unit in both buildings will be what they call adaptable, readily adaptable. So all of the blocking in the walls will be there so that if we end up needing more units that are accessible, we'll be able to do that immediately.
And I know call buttons, they used to have call buttons, or they still have call buttons in like in the bathroom, in the living area. Are those also going to be there for this, like pull?
There will be call buttons.
Okay.
Yes. In each of the units, yes. And that was one of the other things that you think about, right? With the security, because nowadays, you go back and forth between are they wearing a necklace or something of that sort, but then maybe you don't know where they are if they push a button, right? And so even things like today, most people don't use landlines, right? Everyone has a cell phone. And so when you're thinking about security, I may not want you allowing visitors to enter in the building and say you're at the grocery store, right? So how do you kind of balance that out? Those were all decisions that were made that went into the security of the building. So we think that we've met a real nice chord that won't be overbearing, but also create a good, secure environment for the seniors.
Great question.
Thank you for
Any
that.
other questions? Councilman Perez?
How you doing, Ezra?
I'm well. How are you, Perez?
Are the units still roughly around 700 square feet a unit?
They are. They're somewhere between 640 and 700 square feet per unit.
And what is the age limitations of that building?
62.
62, because I know they've made some adjustments on the Nicosia building. Are there going to be any adjustments on this building?
Well, these buildings will be 62, with the exception of all current Nicosia building residents are grandfathered in and granted a unit in the new building.
But beyond that, it'll be the strict 62.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Hill?
Completion date.
So, with a lot of luck and prayer, we will be able to close on this project in June. We'll be able to start construction right away, and that would put us somewhere in November of 21 for a construction completion date.
Any other questions from the council?
And that's give or take weather-wise. One thing I might also add, because you've mentioned it, Councilman Hill, a couple of times, there is a Section 3 mandate on this, so we absolutely will be seeking local participation on this project, and it's mandated. So I have asked for the young lady's card that presented earlier, because we definitely want to make sure that we meet and reach and exceed, really, all of those mandated numbers.
Any questions from the council? Steve Dalton?
Thank you.
Mr. Burdick, a couple logistical questions.
Yes.
If you could remind the new and the previous council people, how much money has the city given to this project, cash?
Cash, the city has awarded $3.2 million.
And has that been put in the project yet, or will that happen at some future date?
Some future date.
Okay, so the city still holds that $3.2 million, and it will happen logistically after the closing on the bonds? Is that kind of when that happens?
Yes.
Okay, and does that secure the city ownership? Does that have a mortgage? Is it just a grant? Is it just a gift, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty much a gift. So let me share. In total, this is a $41 million total development cost project. All right? And so it's a 4% bond, as bond counsel was suggesting, and he may need to share a little bit on this as well. But so with that, with 4% bonds, right? The difficult thing about doing those projects are the large amount of soft costs. And so on these projects, probably about a third of your costs are soft costs. And so there would be no way to get these projects done without city participation. And actually at this level, you think about it, 41 million in total development, 3.2 million, that's less than 10%. I think that's, and you can actually research that, but that's a pretty good deal for the city of East Chicago. I think that's, yeah, they were tough negotiators, I'll put it like that. But so on this project, there's about $13.5 million of tax credits. There will be about just under $15 million in loan. This project received $500,000 from a Federal Home Loan Bank grant. We received $500 from a development grant granted by the state of Indiana through ICTA. see, what else am I missing? So there's, we did a lot of work. There's a lot of nonprofit dollars that are also in this project that all totaled up and got us to the 41 million where we needed to be.
Thank you. Was there not, at some point in time, a conversation about an option to repurchase that the city would be given as part of this transaction?
That's correct.
And when does that?
And that's at year 15 at the end of the compliance period.
And is your experience that happens typically with projects like this, that the city?
Absolutely,
does
because that's etched in stone up front.
So do you think that's the city's intention, is to buy back the project?
I think it is, and I think it should be.
Is the price set in advance with that option, or is that a to-be negotiated number later?
Most times that price is set. The East Chicago Housing Authority, through their nonprofit arm, MICHA, is actually a co-developer with us on this project, and it's my intention that we're delivering something, and this might be my humble opinion, that's world-class to the city of East Chicago, and it's my intention that this project stay with the city of East Chicago and be able to be used in a manner that they so choose, be it 15 years down the road or 25 years down the road.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any questions from the council? Yeah, I got a couple questions. Was that $3.2 million already given to you?
No.
No? So we have it, we're gaining interest off of that?
You got,
That's good.
I don't know. I wasn't in that meeting, Mr.
All right.
President.
Why is housing not giving you the money instead of East Chicago?
So housing is participating, and I wouldn't venture to say, what buckets those dollars are coming from, but they are participating. Additionally, I'm going to say about a little more than 50% of my developer fee was waived to be made up at some further date to be able to get to the closing table. So I've considered myself a partner with the city of East Chicago, and I'll just tell you that everyone at the table has skin in the game.
Can you get back to me and let me know how much housing is put in? Because I would like to know that. Because this should have been the housing project to me, in my eyes, that instead of the city getting the building back, I know housing controls Nicosia and the James Hunter building. So I would like to know how much housing is putting in this project.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Hill?
I was on the housing board as a commissioner. Mecca has a lot to do with it. So they are putting in a considerable amount of money, not the house, but Mecca.
Well, MEC is an arm of housing, but I'd like to know how much they're putting in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hearing no questions, roll call.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Rancifer,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Ordinance is on second reading.
Ordinance 20-0002, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland, an ordinance vacating a public alley pursuant to Indiana Code 36-7-3.
Is there a motion on the floor?
So move.
Is there a second? Motion moved by Councilman Lenny and second by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Any questions? Here are no questions, roll call.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Rancifer,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Any ordinance on second reading? Next reading?
We do not have any ordinance on third reading.
And the resolutions?
Yes. Resolution 20-0001, sponsor Councilwoman Monica Gonzalez, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of East Chicago concerning a petition for a use variance for permit parking on the property commonly known as 602 West 144th Street.
Mr. Marshall.
Richard Morrisford again. This is, comes to you from the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Pastor Neftali Navarro is with us this evening. At the public hearing, he was there with about 20 members of his church. There was no one in opposition. There was one person who kind of came as an observer but didn't speak about the project either for it or against it. This is a small lot. It's a 25-foot lot, but since it's on a corner, it has 37.5 feet. And one thing that I mentioned that's explained to you in the recommendation that comes to you from the BZA and in the facts and findings is that there are conditions attached to the conversion of that lot into a, and I apologize, I'm looking, I have these with me. I just, yes. By that time, I'm sure I'll find mine. My apologies, yes. So in the petition recommendation from the BZA, there are 4 conditions that are mentioned. I would like to read these into the record because through some oversight, they are not part of the resolution. They're in the recommendation to you. They're spelled out. The conditions are that the entry be from the alley and the exit be a right turn only on exiting the parking lot with a right turn only sign to be posted at the exit of the parking lot. This is at 602 West 144th on, at the corner of Todd. The second condition is the lighting is to be checked by the building department as to the adequacy of lighting from the church building. Pastor Navarro mentioned that the church building has substantial lighting. However, we asked that the city engineer confirm that to see whether or not they may need additional lighting, perhaps at the exit from that parking lot. The third condition is that the sidewalk be moved 6 feet closer to the street from where it is to give an additional 6 feet parking, and that as that sidewalk is moved, that it then be repaved with concrete according to the American with Disabilities Act standards, as it is currently paved. The fourth condition is the parking lot may be used when the city engineer approves the parking lot paving to be, according to Pastor Navarro, either concrete or asphalt, and that is to be determined. And I would ask that, first of all, if you have any questions about the project, either of myself or of Pastor Navarro.
Any questions? Here are no questions. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, the motion should include approval with the 4 specific conditions read into the record by Mr. Morrisville.
Councilman Perez, you want to make that motion?
I make a motion that we accept this with the conditions attached to the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Perez, seconded by Councilman Franciski. Any questions? Here are no questions. Roll call.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Winfield?
Yes.
Rancifer?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. Any old business? Before we start new business, I know Councilman Monroe would like the floor for a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that words cannot explain the way that prayers were sent out for me and my family, and I just want to thank everybody for it. And to the new council, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other new business from the council? Yes, Councilwoman Winfield.
Yes, Mr. President, Attorney Buscemi, I don't know how we go about this, but at our next council meeting, can we put in a request that the fire chief, fire department, and the health department attend our next council meeting? We had a derailment and could have been a catastrophe. We had a fire yesterday, dealing with the rail cars yesterday. People were concerned. I was very concerned because I went on a tour and I got the wording of what would happen if the car would catch fire. And what I seen last night, the blackness in the sky, is I need an explanation. We need to have EMA from Lake County to come out also, because I know they would be probably involved with that. If we could ask them to come out. We also have the coronavirus that's going around. It's in Indianapolis. It could get here in a minute. What kind of, if they could come in and speak with us, because I'm sure the residents is waiting for a newsletter, but if they could come out and explain to us what emergency management we have in the city of East Chicago. Not just Lake County, but in the city of East Chicago, because it has hit us with the derailment.
Who are the specific individuals who'd like to appear before the council?
If we can get Lake County EMA, because I believe they go through them, our fire chief, and whoever his staff that needs to come.
The incident commander on the scene.
You say the director of the city health department?
Yes.
Those three?
Yes.
Three individuals.
Yes, please.
Anything else, Councilwoman Winfield? Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to bring up is to ask the fire chief and also the incident commander for both incidents about the rail car derailment and also the Lakeshore rail car fire. I went out there last night. I seen firemen on top of trailers trying to put that fire out. That property is surrounded by truck trailers. So the fire department had no access to the property, so they was on top of these cars trying to put the fire out. That's a grave concern to me, because that's the area where the derailment is. We have a lot of pipelines through there, gas and oil and natural gas, and it's a big concern. We was lucky that night, so that's one of the things we're going to bring up. I know Councilwoman Gonzalez had a meeting. Can you update us, please?
Yes, I had a meeting with Sandra Favela and with Gilda Orange concerning the health department, and my biggest concern was the staffing at the health department and also the coronavirus. Sandra answered some of my questions and some of the items. She's supposed to get back with me this week, but myself and Councilwoman Orange were very specific on making sure that we have a health department in our city. We need to utilize it, and we need to make sure that our citizens are aware of what's going on with the coronavirus. They're currently they're working on having something on Channel 21 where they can update the citizens and let them know. They're following procedures from the CDC. I don't want to scare anyone, but we just need to be prepared. The other thing that was concerning to me is that we do not have anybody in a position for EMA, and we used to, but there's not currently somebody who holds that position. And we have that within our city. We need to find someone for that position. But as I said, we talked, and I should have some more answers this week, and everything's coming. I just don't want anybody to fear. I just want everybody to be informed. I want our citizens to be informed and know that we will do everything we can to keep us safe.
Yep. Thank you for your leadership on that and taking that on. Yes, that coronavirus is worldwide. The more precautions we take, the more safe we are. It's a lot of basic washing your hands, hand sanitizer and stuff like that. So let's continue practicing that. Any other new business? Hearing none, we go into public expression. I'd just like to say to the audience and also to the council members, we need to show respect for one another. First Amendment about freedom of speech, we got to remember that, but we have to respect each other, not call no names and so forth. So first one is Mike McInerney. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Mike McInerney. I'm from Griffith, Indiana. I only came because I had a few folks who had a common experience that I had, and they suggested that I just bring this to your attention. I had a car stolen in Griffith, Indiana, recovered in East Chicago. I certainly understand the police have a hard job, no doubt about that. But my car was recovered without getting into all the specifics. It was recovered in about 36 hours up in East Chicago, off the side of the road, not interfering with traffic. I understand that, if cars get towed, that's the procedure, I get that. But I went around to 5 other police stations and found out that when they pull up a stolen car on the screen that appears in a police officer's car, when they run the plate, my name and phone number is like the second and third thing right on the screen. So the car gets stolen on day one, it's recovered 36 hours later. I'm not made aware of it for 11 days. Now, it's a relatively inexpensive car worth maybe $5,000, and I only carry liability on it, which is I'm allowed to do legally. But I end up having to pay about $900 to get the car back. I ended up having to pay fees to the Chicago Police Department to get the car back. In the situation given, if I was actually informed, as the Chicago Police Officers Manual states, as it does in Highland, Griffith, East Hazel Crest, and Munster, of which I recovered, or I should say I went and did the research and found out, they're like, immediately they would call you to say, hey, we got your car, particularly since it was recovered in the middle of the day on a Saturday afternoon. I could have just drove up and got the car. But instead, I got whacked for $850. I'm probably one of the few guys that actually only was carrying liability. Most of the times, that expense is taken up by the insurance company.
You got a minute?
But it turns out that sometimes you think you're the only one, but it turns out this has happened multiple times in East Chicago, whereas actually I think one of the individuals, a guy by the name of Derek Sanchez, had his car towed by a company called Jan Towing in East Chicago, and I think this individual's name is Deputy Chief Jose Rivera, is that correct? He helped and intervened and said, hey, this guy's getting whacked for $1,300.
30 seconds.
Let's drop it to, let's say, $300 or $400 because this guy's a victim. Well, I'm in a situation now, I'm not sure where to go, but, no one called me at all. There was no record in the East Chicago police system, nothing down at the 911 system either. And all I know is I was out $950 and I could have just driven up and picked up my car without any expense. And like I said, someone just said, hey, you might want to just bring it up to the city council. They say you guys do good work and you're understanding, so that's all I thought I'd do.
Thank you, Mr. McInerney. Now we'll look into it.
All right, thank you.
Next one is Angel Galarski.
Hi, Angel Glarski, Secretary Local 365. Welcome back, Coach. You were missed. We were all praying for you, as was, I'm sure, everybody else. I want to speak a little bit on our current situation yet again. We are at day 94 today. So over 3 months, the city has been paying more for less. Again, 7 less firefighters, 1 less fire truck. We do not have current overtime costs. We've put in Freedom of Information Request Acts. We still have yet to get any of the financials back from Chief Cerna. So I do want to talk about Wednesday, March 11th. We did have a fire. That was going to be at the corner of 149th and Bering. It was the grocery store. It had apartments that were above it. It was all over the news. Maybe we've heard about it, maybe not. That was a fully involved grocery storefront fire, so the fire was well involved coming out of the front. All of our resources were committed to that fire. The incident commander on scene ended up calling the Gary Fire Department to come over to provide service coverage in East Chicago. They manned Central Fire Station in the event of a call. So do recall that our city has a $32 million budget, and we're calling for assistance from the city of Gary, who is not in such a well-financial place as we are, okay? That call was very challenging. I was personally on that call. There was no additional firefighters for rehabilitation. I can attest to my crew. We went through 3 air bottles on that call.
Minute left.
We went in with 1 air bottle to upstairs because we had to do search and rescue. The entire upstairs 2 apartments were filled with smoke, so we had to make sure nobody was up inside there. Once we went through the first bottle, we got back down. We immediately tanked back up with a 2nd air bottle, went back in there, and we were waiting for the fire to breach through the floor, which it did. And so we had to put the fire out in the 2nd floor unit. Then crews came back out, they got a bottle of water,
30 seconds.
up again, and they went back up in there. So again, if we were back on December 6th, we would have 7 more firefighters on shift, potentially, between 4 to 7, depending on the vacation. And we would have had that extra engine company. Tomorrow, Tuesday, March the 10th, we are having a town hall meeting to discuss the public safety crisis within the city. That will be at 5. Doors are going to open at 5, and we're going to start the discussion at 5:30, and then question and answers are going to follow.
3
so
minutes,
that'll have little more than 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is Henry Rodriguez.
Henry Rodriguez, 4933 Indianapolis Boulevard. I'm here to speak on an ordinance that the council just voted on 8-0 for reimbursement for expenses. From 2004 to 2011, the salary ordinance for elected officials paid council members $706 every payday. And you multiply that by 26, that comes to $18,356. It also gave them a $2,000 stipend each month, or $24,000. A year to be used for all expenses related to their offices, including but not limited to travel expenses. $18,356 plus $24,000 comes to $42,356. Now that's from 2004 to 2011. I don't have anything before 2004. 2012 to 2020 of this ordinance, salary ordinance for elected officials, sets the pay at $1,629 a pay. You multiply that by 26 paydays, that comes to $42,356. Same thing it was before. All right, Section 3 of that ordinance states that compensation in Section 2 herein is intended to cover all expenses except for dues and registration fees for attending conferences and events. That comes from a different account, which is on budget form number 1, which I have here, and I have the ordinances here. Several years ago, the council was informed that the travel expense account had been eliminated. It is now part of your pay. I have those minutes here to where the financial advisor was asked about travel. He said, I believe the elected salary ordinance for elected officials for 2012 eliminated the travel expense account. It is now included as part of your salary.
Minute left.
And so the council president at that time says, are we all clear that we cannot submit travel? In my opinion, members of this council are trying to appropriate taxpayer dollars that they're not entitled to. You are trying to pick the pockets of the East Chicago taxpayers. To paraphrase something said at a meeting in 2019, at a council meeting, you don't need this extra money, you're just doing it because you can.
30 seconds.
Shame on you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn, so move.
Motion made by Councilman Hill, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Roll call.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Franciski?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Winfield?
Yes.
Rancifer?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.